Yeah, I think 2009 it was a whole different scenario for me. In 2009 I came there. It was my first year of the Springboks. I was more of a junior, just get into the squad. Played my first test against British Lions in Durban, and then the one at Loftus where I kicked that kick. And then 2012, 2021, this year where I was more a senior guy. I came back 37 years old. All the youngsters is looking up to me now, so it was a whole different scenario. But yeah, if you look at the game, everything happened almost the same. I went on with almost 60 minutes to go. My first kick was quite a difficult one where Job scored a try in 2009. And this year, the same one. My first one was quite a difficult one out of the corner. And then the winning kick, both of them was in front of the post. This one just a little bit closer this year. But yeah, everything happened almost the same. It was almost like a thing happening again. You can't ever actually describe it. But yeah, just an amazing feeling. Me and Eben Etzebeth actually sat by the table breakfast that morning before the test, and he actually told me, just imagine everything happened the same as 2009.
Morné Steyn, one of the greatest who've ever done it. Thanks for joining us on RugbyPass. Firstly, how's things with you? Lots kind of happened in your career, which we'll go through, but more recently, retirement from international rugby and now playing in the URC still.
Yeah, I think my wife is very happy because I'm at home for a change. But yeah, it's just good to spend some time with the kids now, while the South Africa team is overseas again. So yeah, just enjoying time with the family now. We actually start training tomorrow with the Bulls, so then I'll be back in action again.
If you were speaking for the lads who are playing in the URC, having played in Super Rugby, what would the preference be? Because I think there's a real appetite, there has been an appetite, and it's kind of been in the pipeline for a while, that the potential for the South African team to come and play up north. There's even talk about the Six Nations in the future. But from the lads that are playing's point of view and the coaches, you think there's a preference to be doing what you're doing now, or actually Super Rugby might be more suited in terms of the travel and historically how the teams have played against them before?
No, I think for us, as South African teams, coming to Europe is much better for us. I think it's just a 10-hour flight, then we're there. The time difference is the same, or it's just an hour or 2 hours out, while you go to Australia and New Zealand, it's almost the opposite. If you wake up in South Africa, people go to sleep in New Zealand and Australia. So I think for us, traveling wise and just time wise, is much better to play in the Europe teams now. So I think hopefully over the years it will get better for us playing on the field. All the conditions can be better, but we must improve on the field as well.
Do you think it's a precursor to the Six Nations one day? Would you like to see that or not? South Africa join the Six Nations, because there's talk about it, right? It's been in the pipeline for a couple of years.
That will be good for South Africa as well. I know New Zealand, is one of the best teams in the world, and you always want to play against them and measure yourself against them. But Scotland, England, Ireland, everyone's just getting better every year as well. So yeah, I won't mind playing the Six Nations. Let South Africa playing the Six Nations. It will be good for us.
I love how you say, I wouldn't mind. That means there's still a chance at 42, mate, you could come back if it happens.
That's why I rephrased it.
But how is international retirement? And, when you look back on your career, I'm not going to detail everything you've done, but, one of the most stellar careers that we've had in the professional era in terms of what you've done and the effect that you've had on the game for South African rugby. Have you looked back? Have you had time to reflect on that? Do you have any standout moments?
Yeah, not really. I spent time with the family, so I haven't had that time to just sit down and just go back since 2009 till this year. And I think that's what make it so special for me, and a good time to retire as well. I started with the British Lions and I finished with the British Lions again. So over that 12 years, I thought I was finished in 2016 when I played my last test against New Zealand. And then, I came back with the Bulls. We did well. I played some good rugby. And then, they got me back in the team again. So just to finish that whole thing off with the British Lions was amazing for me. And, that was, I think, on a high for me to finish.
Yeah, it was something out of a story, I'm sure, or a nightmare if you're a British Irish Lions fan. But let's just look back on them two tours where lightning struck twice. I don't know if you saw the narrative around it. There were some hilarious memes going around after, which I suppose was the only way that we could enjoy it, because there was obviously no fans during COVID. But how do you look at them two tours? Because you're always now going to be synonymous historically with what you did with the important kicks. So when you look at them two tours first, let's just go through them. They were very different, but which one was most enjoyable or sweetest, would you say?
Yeah, I think if I coming to Europe for holidays, it's not going to be fun if the people know who I am and what I did. So I'll watch my way where I go there. But yeah, it was just amazing.
Unbelievable. Because that was going to be my next question. I don't know what the banter's like within the South African team. I mean, in Scotland, it was obviously we had a lot of banter. I know the English team would have been the same. And there would have been that chat in camp. Morné, when you get on, mate, just make sure you do the same again. Was there that kind of build-up? Like, could you joke around with it like that? Obviously, Eben mentioned it, but there must have been that story with you being on the bench. I don't know if you saw the stuff here in the UK. My partner in crime, Andy Good, we do a fan zone live, and he said, "Oh, if Morné comes on, there's no chance South Africa winning." And then the meme come out after with the slow motion. It was hilarious. Did you see that or not?
Yeah, I saw all those memes. It was quite funny, but. Yeah, like I said, everyone made jokes about it. I wasn't actually in the team on Monday. Reinhard Elstead was on a bench, so I think we would have gone with a 6-2 bench. And then Reinhard got injured the Tuesday morning or Monday or whatever, and then Tuesday afternoon I got into the team. So it was actually funny. I was so mad on Monday I wasn't in the team and wasn't getting an opportunity to play against them again. And then Tuesday I was back in the team. So it was a bit of a roller coaster, but at the end everything worked out nicely.
So was that out in the public domain or not? The fact that you weren't meant to play that game?
Yeah, because the previous two tests we also went with a 5-2 or 6-2 bench, I think, and then the last one they were supposed to go again with that, and like I said, they got an injury, and yeah, I don't know. Rossi and them gave me the opportunity. They said they had the feeling something like that's going to happen. So if I can believe them or not, but yeah, that's what they said.
Tell me more then. So they said they had a feeling that you could come on and do something special like you did, but they felt that before, did they?
Yeah, afterwards they just said, Morné's the guy, if something like that happened, he's the guy to have on the field. And yeah, I actually told even before the game, I hope we just more points ahead. We don't want to make it a close one like 2009 again. And then it happened the same. So I actually hope we were like 10 or 20 points ahead and it wasn't as tight as it was.
And then how was it for you emotionally, having kicked that penalty? We obviously know that there's a championship that you went to play in Australia. In your mind, was it like that was going to be the closing chapter potentially in your story? Yeah,
when I was picked for the squad again, for the British Lions squad, my wife actually told me after this is actually a good time to retire and to finish up now, because she's also tired of the traveling and being away from home. So she actually told me, it's a great time to finish now. So that was actually the plan. And then Jock and them spoke to me and got me into the Four Nations squad again. And yeah, I played that one test against Argentina, went on tour and everything. I didn't get a chance again. And I think that just made my decision easier, because to go on a tour for 6 weeks, you don't play a game. You just don't want to sit on the side and check how the games are going. So that actually made my decision easier. And I had to talk to Jock and Rossi and them, and yeah, that was my final decision.
Morné, one thing that really interests me, and I don't know whether this happens because South Africa are world champions. You did what you did against the British and Irish Lions. I love the way that South Africa play. Always have done, always will do. But in the public domain, in the media, there's a lot of criticism with the amount of kicking that South Africa do. And I know you'll know the stats a lot more than me, that other teams kick as much, but it just looks very different. What do you make of the criticism that South Africa get? Why? Why do you think it is?
Yeah, I think that's been like that since 2009 when I started as well. Everything in Morné is just a kicking fly off. South Africa's kicking the ball away. But if you look at the stats, over the years, I think New Zealand is kicking more than us. Australia is kicking almost the same amount as us. So, but like you said, we just get that thing around the South African team, like we just kick the ball away. And I know over the last couple of tests against Australia and New Zealand, we went a bit far with some of the kicking. But at the end, you just play to win the game. They don't worry about the fans or what they think, as long as you win. But we lost the 2 tests against Australia, and that was the reason by all the fans. We kick too much, we kick the ball away. But yeah, that's the plan Rossi and Jock have for the team. So I think they will just stuck to it, and that's what worked in the World Cup as well. So they will just go forward with that, and as long as it works.
Well, it definitely is working. Can you just give me a bit more detail, or the viewers, listeners, a bit more detail what you mean about the kicking stuff? Because I've seen that stats out there. New Zealand kicked the ball an awful lot, but there is this perception that they play. Is that because in the attacking half, New Zealand like to play, or off counter-attack transition? Just a little bit more detail, like how the kind of two teams kick, but kick very differently.
Yeah, I think New Zealand, more they kick more of an attacking kick. They'll move it to the side to the wingers, and the wingers or the fullback will put it through and put you under pressure in the 22. While we go more into the air and make it a 50-50, or we are quite good in the air. So we see it as a 60-40 or a 70-30 for us. So I think that's the difference between us and New Zealand. They rather play 2 or 3 phases and then they look to kick. While we sometimes from the starter move will put up a drive and kick. So it looks a bit, if we're just kicking, but if you look at all the stats, New Zealand is also kicking a lot of ball. But I think they kick more to put you under pressure, get a ruck or a set face in your half or in your 22 if it can be like that. So I think that's the main difference of the whole kicking thing people have against us.
Do you think there'll be an evolution going forward to the World Cup? And we saw against New Zealand, you should have won that first game against them if it wasn't for the referee cutting off the advantage. But we saw in the other test that you won that you did play a little bit more, or that there was this perception of playing a little bit more. Do you think there'll be a slight evolution? And how hard is it to try and evolve a game like a New Zealand or Australia, but winning test matches as well?
Yeah, I think the whole thing about South Africa, and Felix Jones, the backline coach, his thing is opportunity overrides everything. So if the opportunity is there to go wide and make, say, 20-30 yards with the wings, or to get that yards of a kick, opportunity overrides everything. So whatever's on, the guys must play. But going to the World Cup, I think for me, just the other teams like Australia, England, all those guys, everyone is getting better in the air. So I think South Africa must look at a different way of kicking as well, because at the moment we just go into the air, and at the moment we are quite good in the air, receiving the ball back or getting the ball back. But I think over the years the other teams is getting better as well, and going to the World Cup, playing against South Africa, they know that's a strong point for us, and that's what we're targeting. So they will definitely pick their best guys in the air, on the wing and the fullback. So yeah, I think Jock and those guys will look at that and maybe adapt to that.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that goes hand in hand with South Africa, as you know, well, I know as well, having played against South Africa and played in South Africa, actually. I played in Durban in 2001. I was in the Sharks kind of academy as a young lad, but is the physicality. So the obvious part is South Africa, physical, big men, big pack of forwards. What was it like growing up in South Africa, and the Schoolboys kind of roots for that? Because everyone speaks about it over here. Is you look at the Schoolboys rugby in South Africa, the physicality is actually quite frightening compared to other nations around the world. What was it like growing up in that environment? Yeah,
that was a bad thing for me, because I wasn't always the biggest guy. So I was always the guy on the receiving side, receiving all those big boys. But I think that's a nice thing for me. When I started the Bulls, we had a good pack there as well with Bakkies Boerta, Dani Rousseau, Victor, and all those guys. So it's always nice for a 9 and 10 to play behind a pack like that. And I think at the moment, South Africa is almost there. Is again there. If we can, everyone give us shit about the drives and stuff, but if you can make it 10 or 20 yards of a drive, it's the easier option for us. It makes the forwards a bit tiring, but yeah, that's their job. So, but yeah, growing up in South Africa, and all the other teams see us as this, aggressive team, big guys, big forwards. But yeah, then in between of all of them, you have some pace and some skills there as well. A guy like Wacha Smith, he was a 7th player, so there is some skills involved there as well. But I think they like more to dominate the guys with more of an arm wrestle thing.
But I'm right in saying the lads are bigger, aren't they? Generally, do you know what I mean? The lads coming through from a young age, like the Afrikaans kind of blood that's running through, they're just bigger lads. And I've got some lads some mates who play for Scotland, like Dave Denton from Zimbabwe, and lads that I know from Namibia. Just make them bigger, right? Down there.
These days, I don't know what the Schoolboys are eating or what they're using, because if you look at a guy, he's very 15 years old, 14 years old, and he's bigger than me, he's more muscle than me. So I don't know what they do at school level. At this stage, all the schools got their own gyms now and everything. But yeah, I just don't know where it's going to stop, because for me, they're just getting bigger and bigger.
Is there a lot of pressure on these lads coming through? And I say that because of the carrot that's at the end. Obviously, winning World Cups, how high profile rugby is in South Africa. You know, when South Africa win rugby matches, it seems like it just galvanizes the nation. Well, it does. You know, globally, we've seen that. But what kind of pressure are these young lads under to try and make it through to the highest level?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of quality rugby players in South Africa. With the physicalness, I think over the years there was a thing with the coaches. You know, they'd rather pick a bigger guy than a guy with more skills or faster, maybe. So you can see it. You can see it if it's the parents or the coaches, but you can see they spend more time in a gym these days than on their skills and stuff like that. So for me, that's a bit of a problem because they, you know, all these big guys get a lot of injuries and stuff. But I think that's the downside for the South African teams. You know, everyone just want to be bigger. They spend more time in a gym, but you know, if you ask them to pass a ball or do the skills things, they're not always 100%. So there must just be a good balance between that. But yeah, I think there is some good quality rugby players in South Africa, and there is a big, you know, competition for the guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And how does a team like South Africa measure success, Morné? So you beat the Lions again. You know, you win the World Cup. Like, how do you carry on? Like, what do you think the public are looking for? What's like a realistic expectation? I mean, we're obviously, it's the autumn, spring tour, however you look at it from your side or wherever you're from. But how do you measure success in this South Africa team? Is the pressure on to go and win a World Cup again?
Yeah, I think the pressure in South Africa is just they want to win. If you're a Blue Bull supporter here in Pretoria, if you don't win, they don't come to the stadium. They will, they won't come to the games. They won't support you. So I think in South Africa they just want to win. And yeah, we won the World Cup, so they actually expect you to win the next World Cup again. They think we have done it, so we must do it again. So yeah, there is quite a big responsibility on our shoulders. And yeah, I think rugby is a big thing in South Africa. We actually, you know, driving South Africa, but bringing some hope to the people out there. So yeah, I think rugby is playing a big role in South Africa for the people out there.
And who are the biggest rivals? So when you speak to supporters, is it England or is it New Zealand? I know you've got loads. I know Scotland are up there as well. But like, who are the ones? Who are the ones? It's like in Scotland, it's England. A lot of teams, it's England. Australia, it's England. But for South Africa, who's the number one rival? Would you say, both in camp and probably externally with family and fans?
Yeah, no, I think the big one is New Zealand. Over the years, it's been a big rivalry between South Africa and New Zealand. So, you know, all this New Zealand Super Rugby teams, you know, a lot of people supporting the Crusaders, the Hurricanes, the Blues. Even if you play in Port Elizabeth or Cape Town, there's a lot of New Zealand supporters as well. So I think the big rivalry for us is definitely New Zealand.
Yeah, and let's talk about England then. The game in a couple of weeks. I know we've got Scotland, we can touch on that as well. But with England and the history from the World Cup a couple of years ago, how does South Africa prepare for a game like England? Is there anything in their game that worries South Africa? I mean, probably arguably very similar teams, but what's it like in the lead up to play in England?
Yeah, I think it will always be that thing. We beat them in the final in the World Cup, so it's always that, you know, it's payback time and stuff like that. So, but I think for us in South Africa, we've just focused on our game. We just want to do everything we do 100%, and you know, then we'll worry about the other teams. But yeah, we always know it's going to be a big one against England. They are a quality team. I think if they pick the right team, the right players, you know, it's a difficult one for South Africa, especially playing there in England. So yeah, I don't think we will change a lot. We will just focus on our stuff, do everything, all that small little stuff, 100%.
Let's talk about Scotland at the weekend then. My team beat Australia at the weekend, I think third time in a row. A nation that is going really well now. We've had a few South Africans in, let's be honest, which has made a big difference in Douan. What do you make of Scotland? I don't know how much you've seen of Scotland. You've obviously played in the URC. You were up here in Edinburgh playing. What do you make of Scottish rugby at the minute?
No, every year is just getting better for me. I think they're doing very well in the Six Nations the last 2-3 years. So they just showed again this weekend. I watched a bit of that game against Australia, and they played some quality rugby. They've got a good balance between their running and kicking. So yeah, I'd say they're quite the good quality side. Their defense is very good. So yeah, I think it's going to be a tough one for South Africa. It's not always, you know, we always look at England or Ireland or stuff like that, but you know, I think Scotland, we mustn't look past Scotland. It's going to be a tough one, and we must be up for it. I see South Africa made a couple of changes, so we'll see what happened.
Yeah, out of them, Morné, out of this Autumn Nation series, which is the one notoriously in the minds of the South African players is the toughest one. And I say that, look, you know, having played a number of Six Nations, we'd look down the list, you'd be like, right, England is the big one. Yeah. Italy is going to be the easier one. Is there anything in the South African team historically where you're like, that's the one? Obviously, Wales at the weekend was a tough match, could have went either way. But which one would you say is the toughest one? You mentioned Ireland there as well.
Yeah. For us, normally it's England, Ireland. They are quite tough there, especially on that side. And then, like you said, it's always been like that. If you got Italy and Scotland, maybe you look past them. But I think at the moment you can't look past Scotland anymore. I think they're quality sides like England and Ireland. But yeah, for us, it's always been Ireland and England. But yeah, all the teams are getting better now. So yeah, like I said, we must be up for every game on that side now.
Morné, just before you go, RugbyPass, we posted a picture or a meme of you at the ice tank chamber.
Yeah, I saw it.
If they need you to come out of retirement in 2 years, is there an opportunity, or is this it? Is Morné Steyn retired from international rugby?
Yeah, I think that's it. Jock and them asked me as well. You know, when this came out in the media, Jock phoned me immediately and said, "Listen, didn't the guy just misunderstood you or something?" And then I said, "No, that was the decision." So yeah, I think that's my final decision. And yeah, I think guys like Andre and Elton, the guys who is there, they can do it, and hopefully the next World Cup they will still be on good form, and yeah, I think they will do it.
Well, Morné Steyn, absolute pleasure. One of the greats who've done it in the professional era. So thank you for talking to me, mate.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it, and it was always nice talking to you guys.